Hello, everyone. This is Professor Reena Randir. Today, we'll be discussing human evolution and human eating habits. It's very interesting. The main learning objectives is to understand the major evolutionary steps in human evolution and how they relate to the human diet. We will also study the agricultural revolution and the industrial revolution that highly influenced our diet. We will discuss the uh, sustainability opportunities in the current food system. You are probably very aware of the out of Africa human evolution theory. What is human evolution? It is an ongoing process. It is a process of change by which modern humans, which we are, the genus is Homo, species is sapiens, Homo sapiens. How did we evolve from our ancient ancestors? So this took millions and millions of years. What are the drivers of evolution? So evolution means change over time, and it's by natural selection due to environmental pressures, environmental changes, genetic drifts and mutations, and also cultural practices will drive human evolution. One of the most popular theories is the out of Africa or the replacement model for the migration of human beings. The origin and the spread of modern humans out of Africa can be dated 50,000 to 100,000 years ago. So you would be thinking, what is the evidence for this? It's the fossil records that can be seen, spread out all over the world. So some of the main evidence for human evolution come from fossil records. So you can see the physical characteristics of the bones that are found, old bones that are found buried in different parts of the world. And we can see the transition between apes and humans. Comparative anatomy is studying similarities. Like, for example, if you study the limbs of animals and humans, you can see 3 segments here. And this kind of suggests common ancestry. Biogeography relates to distribution of species. Like, even though humans were not like there in the beginning when Pangea happened, which is the drifting of continents, but it did play a huge role that shows the relatedness and a common ancestry of species. The most powerful evidence is the genetic evidence or DNA sequencing. It indicates that 99% similarity between humans and chimps. So we can study the evolutionary relatedness with sequencing data. Molecular biology also plays a huge role. Like when you study mitochondrial DNA, it kind of gives conclusive evidence about relatedness. Here is a beautiful human evolution tree. You can see like 7 billion years ago is the branch called Ardipithecus and Australopithecus here. Then, you can see Paranthropus and then Homo branch, which is the human branch, kind of breaks away around 3.5 million years ago. So the evolutionary tree shows the relationships and the branching patterns of the human ancestors and related species. The Homo species diverged from primates 7 million years ago. The first species to show bipedalism, that is walking in twos, is Sahelanthropus, followed by Lucy, which is Australopithecus. Homo sapiens appeared in the fossil record only like 300,000 years ago. And here's some familiar ones like habilis or Neanderthalensis and so forth. A common feature that we are seeing, which is very fascinating, is that as evolution happened, the brain size increased. When the brain size increased, the gut size, the colon for digestion, decreased. So that is called brain to gut ratio. So here you can see Australopithecus is about like 400 to 500 cc's brain capacity. And humans are almost 3 times that, or twice the size of habilis. So as evolution happened, the brain size increased. And correspondingly, the gut size decreased in comparison to the overall size of the body. So it's called brain to gut ratio. So as the brain size increased, so did intelligence and cognitive abilities increased. Another very interesting thing is this brain size increasing is being linked to a diverse diet and a shifting of plant-based proteins to meat-based proteins and high fat in the diet. So some of the evolutionary changes with time. So this, of course, took millions and millions of years. Like when you see the evolution of the human being is very much linked to the evolution of the human diet. So you can see a transition from eating fruits and little berries and nuts and worms from a herbivore to an omnivore, that is eating both plant and animal sources, from being a scavenger to a hunter, and then, actually doing agriculture and industrialization. There's lots of changes that has happened over a period of millions of years. So some of the main landmarks that you can see from this list on the left would be like human, by learning to walk in 2 feet first, bipedalism, and changing in the teeth, learning to make tools, walking erect and being more agile, advanced tool technology. So once you learn how to make tools and make fire and you're walking in tools, you've become a hunter now. And then that coincides with larger brain sizes and increased cognition and intelligence. And then humans learn to live in groups and do agriculture, symbolic behavior, communication, and then artistry and creativity, where we see wall paintings and so forth. And all of this led to increased cultural diversity and innovation that we see in our present food scene. So all these evolutionary changes happen because of selection pressures and changing environment, mutations in the genetics. Here are some example of the major landmarks. Australopithecus lived 2 to 4 million years ago. Lucy is a very good example of that. It's interesting to note the archaeologists were playing a song called Lucy, and that's why the name Lucy, from a famous band. So Lucy had both ape-like features and human-like features. So she's like a crucial transition species in the evolution of hominins towards the evolution of Homo sapiens. So Lucy showed bipedalism, that is walking in twos, had a very small brain, 300 to like 500 cc's of brain, prognathic face, that means protruding lower jaw, mainly vegetarian, and like eating honey and nuts and leaves, insects, small animals, maybe scavenging some meat. um, uh, Very heavy jaws and teeth for chewing food. So likely a lot of high fiber nuts and barks and all that. She begins to show sexual dimorphism, meaning male and female body structures are different. So their role and function is slightly beginning to change now. Homo habilis is between 2.4 to 1.4 million years ago. They are known as, popularly, you must have heard, as the tool man. Bipedalism, 500 to 700 cc brain, larger brain than compared to Lucy, learning to make tools, but still mostly vegetarian diet. But however, the teeth fossil record shows it's becoming more delicate now. Sexual dimorphism is also seen. Homo erectus is the upright man walking in twos mainly, all very large brain, 1000 cc, very robustly built, advanced tool making skills. But he also discovers fire, and then he's able to control fire for using for cooking or warmth, for protection. And because of that, they were able to move around and expand their settlements, and they are harvesting from different environments. And because of the confidence, I guess, that comes with walking in twos, being very agile, being able to run, long distances, they are very good hunters. And there's evidence to show that they left Africa first, Homo erectus. Their diet is omnivore diet, both meat and plants. And larger brain sizes helps them to adapt to the environment and spread out. Neanderthals, they roamed around for between 40 to 400,000 years ago. They are they're also very smart. They are able to adapt to the cold. They are very robustly built. They are short and stocky. And there's evidence to show how they build good shelters. They wore clothes and shoes. They have a prominent ridge, like the forehead ridge there, a large brain. They have very advanced tool making tool kits and tools, stone tools. So they are very good at hunting and gathering. Very interesting here is the development of social behavior when they are living in communities and caring for the sick and elderly. We can see evidence of rituals that they have conducted, like flowers and stuff for when they buried their dead. First evidence for like hunting in teams, in large groups. And that's one of the reasons as to why they were very successful. They are called as opportunistic omnivore because they know how to harvest the environment to sustain themselves. There's evidence of how they preserved food by either drying or smoking or storing their food in underground caves and so forth. Cro-Magnon is early humans. 10,000 years ago to 40,000 years ago. They are hunter and gatherers. High forehead, large brain size, like 1400 cc's. Very sharp cognitive behaviors, fine facial features. They have the modern appearance. There's evidence for them like very artistic, all the cave drawings that we've heard of in France or in other parts of the world. So they're spending time on creativity and artistic endeavors. Jewelry making, they are also considered to be an opportunistic omnivore, and they're very good at hunting in teams, and they hunted large game like mammoth and bison. They have this varied diet of fruits and vegetables and, all kinds of nutritious, nutrient-dense diet. So diet is correlated with increasing brain size and intelligence. And then comes the agricultural revolution and the Neolithic revolution 10,000 years ago. So again, here in this map, you can see this fossil records of vegetables and farming that happened all over the world. Here in North America, there's, we can see squash and sunflower. And then in the Mexican region, you can see 8,000 BC squash and beans and small millets in India. So now this is the development of agriculture. So here you can see a huge shift from hunting and gathering to settling down in a ideal environment and making growing crops in large scale. So that will, of course, lead to storage techniques and preservation and cooking. So this is when human settlement and civilization really took off. And of course, when the diet changes, it affects the human health. And then very slowly, because of overexploitation of the environment, we start to see the environmental degradation, deforestation, water pollution, soil pollution. All of them have begun by this time. This is also an explosion of religion and art and communities and culture and all of those good things. It still continues to shape human societies the world over. And it's the major driver of changes in environmental and climate. Then came the Industrial Revolution of the 18th and 19th century that will play a role in the modern diet. So there's a transition from manual labor to machine-based labor. So everything is factory produced. Economic, it's a boom of productivity and affordability. Highly processed foods loaded with chemicals and sugars and salts and saturated fats, they flood the market. And then that leads to a range of cardiovascular disease and diabetes and blood pressure, cancer, and all those kinds of diseases that were not prevalent before this. It is also accompanied by a more sedentary lifestyle. And this overexploitation ruins and degrades the environment. There's an overexploitation of all natural resources. Our forest is gone, our water is polluted, air polluted, soil is polluted with herbicides and pesticides and all those things. This kind of triggers the climate change that we are going to be studying in the future lectures. So what is a modern food system and what are some of the sustainability strategies? So the modern food scene is all mass production, processing, deforestation. So the global food system, if you see, it's dominated by a few very large agribusinesses that control a large portion of the world food supply. And it's also the agricultural practices are monoculture, growing the same crop, loss of biodiversity, overuse of chemical fertilizers and herbicides and pesticides, unthinkable deforestation. We have the highest extinction rates of animals in the world, and accompanied by waste and polluting the world. So it is very important that we transition to a sustainable strategies like promoting plant-based diets, regenerative agriculture. That means you have to keep the environment in mind to conserve the soil and water. agroforestry, like growing more trees in our land for carbon sequestration to capture the carbon, precision agriculture, food waste reduction, embracing local food system and sustainable fishing practices are some of the powerful sustainability strategies. So an ideal food system will make sure no one goes to bed hungry. As a human being, I think it's a basic human right to have access to healthy, adequate, nutritious food. The ideal food system will protect the environment, have a low carbon footprint in food production. It will create biodiversity. It will ensure the livelihood of farmers who are working so hard for us. Diverse landscape and a protected soil, land, air, and water. So what did we learn in the last 10-15 minutes? We learned that humans evolved in Africa and they spread out from Africa 50,000 to 100 years ago. And you can prove this with the fossil records and other means also. The human diet was primarily fruits and nuts and mostly vegetarian, but as they transitioned to discovering cooking, tools and hunting and walking in twos, humans started to eat a lot of meat and saturated fat and other fats that increased in brain size and improved cognitive abilities. The agricultural revolution was a marked shift where we started producing food in large numbers and thereby the human population just skyrocketed. The industrial food revolution overexploited the environment and degraded it. So the next step is the future of food systems must revert back to a sustainable way to produce food to ensure that every human being gets enough to eat of healthy food without destroying the environment or human health. And I hope you found that useful, and I hope you would read up more on this topic.